the last hurricane live stream before Idalia, if I'm saying it correctly, hits really close to our house. So, Kristen, thanks for hunkering down with us. I will, Kristen suggested blaming my internet issues on the hurricane. I would do that if most of you didn't already know we just have issues with the internet all the time. So if I freeze a little bit, Kristen's going to take over the show. Kristen, we're talking about mask mandates returning. They have come back to some places at this point, and the fact checkers are now out in full force. This is factcheck.org, and they're specifically talking about lockdowns. No support for viral claim that COVID-19 lockdowns are returning this fall. They do mention the fact that in a few limited instances, colleges and companies have announced they will be requiring masks for the time being. But contrary to many viral social media posts, there is no indication that any kind of government ordered COVID-19 restrictions are about to begin. Then they quote Alex Jones as a conspiracy theorist, claiming that sources with the federal government told him new lockdowns are coming. He said a high level manager in the TSA told him that. And also Custom and Border Protection. After hearing this, they expect COVID protocols to begin ruling out again in September. Anyway, they go after Jones for the next 8 paragraphs, and then they go to the TSA spokesperson who's like, "No, this is this, we're unaware of it." See, this is so funny. TSA is unaware of such a requirement. There was no TSA meeting on the topic, as if that, whether you like or don't like Alex Jones, as if that is somehow a rebuttal of anyway. And then there's Nick Spinelli, a CDC spokesperson, saying these rumors are utterly false. The Biden administration reimposing lockdowns is not even legally feasible, it says. The restrictions that were put into place on businesses, on going to the movie theater, on going to the retail mall, all of those were done by states and local governments, not the federal government, says this public health law expert at Northeastern University. So let's just start there. What do you think about the concern that people have and the fact checkers coming out and telling people just calm down? It's not coming. It's just a conspiracy.
Well, that's a lot to tackle because a lot of that is just pure BS and lies and skirting the issue. So first of all, it talks about viral videos. I had a video I made just on a whim one day, and that video went viral. It's got about 5.5 million views in response to Alex's video. Because as you've had me on before, I've explained I am a subject matter expert. I'm a senior industrial hygienist. I'm an exposure scientist. And I've never been dismissed as a court credentialed expert on this issue in 21 years. So getting to this, I used to be a contributor for Alex Jones. I don't agree with everything the man says, but one thing I can tell you is he gave me a platform when I first blew the whistle on the Air Force. And I know the vetting process that I went through to be able to tell my story. So I know that he has probably grown in that vetting process over the years. So I'm sure he did get intel. And the problem is it kind of reminds me of my whistleblowing story, meaning people that work there or even high level managers doesn't mean just because they didn't have a meeting about it that it's not being talked about. I mean, just because you work somewhere doesn't mean you have your hand in the know all. So I believe this story. And the reason I believe this is because COVID became a cash cow. We can get into that more, but basically, in relation to this article, first of all, factcheck.org is basically the National Enquirer. And if you are being fact checked, you know what you're saying is true. But I believe they are coming back. And the argument that really kind of irked me was when it said closing of movie theaters and malls and businesses was not the federal government. But yes, it was, because in order to receive all these grants and the COVID money that was misused, which is fraud, waste, and abuse, they had to do these things. So they got funds and they went willy-nilly with them and didn't even use them for actual exposure controls that would have, decreased the spread and had these places open. So, look at the website. It's not credible at all, but these lockdowns are coming back. And just because it's not yet at the federal level, if you looked at that, they talked about how TSA employees could be put in these. And this whole discussion needs to stop, because while it's a violation of our rights, yes, it is a violation of OSHA. Because I've covered this ad nauseum, especially in my video. This is not adequate personal protective equipment. And in my profession, I've been on your show before talking about the upside down pyramid. People can Google it or DuckDuckGo. It's called the hierarchy of safety and controls. Engineering controls, those increased air exchanges. And ironically, the government started talking about this 2 years into COVID. But what we really have to do is look at the science of OSHA and the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health. And I'm being smart with my words here, given the platform we're on, but you had to remember who are the governing individuals here, and it's industrial hygienists. And I know that they're coming back because I've already been contacted once again by attorneys and parents trying to get their kids out of these things. And yeah, did we not learn? And the government itself even said that these control measures that they put into place didn't do much. So to me, this is just a form of gaslighting.
Want to refer everybody to your Twitter account where they can follow you, Kristen Meghan, and you have a pinned tweet here who says, "Who are the real experts on this issue?" And I think you're talking about the mandates and everything. I just think, to wrap the YouTube section of this, because we're going to talk more in depth about masks, efficacy, the mandates, and everything on the other platforms. So everybody check out the links in the description. If you're not familiar with the other platforms I'm on, we'll be on Rumble, ROKFIN, and Locals Live, continuing the discussion. Uh, what what do you mean by that when you say, like, who are the real experts? Because for all I know, I turn on CNN or MSNBC or Fox News Channel or the local news, and they say experts say this, and I'm just supposed to believe that experts say this, and I don't even know who their experts are, but that's commonly used as just, experts say. So what do you mean by that?
Because everyone sits and incorrectly calls themselves experts on exposure controls. And pre 2020, these very experts, they're usually doctors, virologists, epidemiologists, or public health professionals, which, by the way, my profession is a subdiscipline of public health. It's just a different part that most people don't hear about, involving total worker and environmental health. So when I say the experts, one of my favorite friends and physicians on the platform is Dr. Lynn Finn. And this morning, she, tagged me and some of my colleagues on an article talking about the growing number of experts are claiming that you should really wear these things and N95 respirators. And she goes, "What type of experts? Poli-sci experts?" Because that is like a very bold word that gets your attention, like an expert on this, but they're not experts. And how I know they're not experts, because if you bumped up my credentials with any one of those in a court of law, and I was testifying, say for a doctor to get, their medical license back, which I've had to do, I can tell you that my attorneys would get that person dismissed, because you have to be deemed an OSHA competent person to have any sort of knowledge or governance. And none of these people, by the way, have ever managed respiratory protection programs, which are a requirement for any time you're electively using these things or wearing N95 respirators. So that is just an attention getter grab word to think, oh, these are the people I need to listen to.
I think, as somebody who used to work in mainstream media, that really anytime you do see that, you should be very suspicious of what follows, because even though, I say this as somebody who really used to do that, but experts say, I didn't even think about how I was being used by the press releases from the hospital or from the Department of Health or whatever, to push the propaganda that they want everybody to follow. And it is, it's a biased take on it. Whether you think they have good intentions or bad intentions or whatever, they do have a bias. And for whatever reason, we just took whatever they said as gospel, and they were the experts. But if somebody else with better credentials came in, we're like, well, hang on a second. We need to just make sure. Now I realize that if you're somebody who writes that, like if I wrote that and I was just like, experts just say this, I don't say some experts or the experts we spoke to or these experts at this particular hospital, so I don't qualify what I'm talking about, then you really shouldn't listen to anything I say, because I don't understand the complexity within the expert, community. I don't understand that. And so if I don't understand that there's differing the word expert say or that phrase, then that means that everything after this should be taken with a significant many grains of salt, because I don't really quite understand how the whole expert thing works. However, there is somebody in the chat who says I should change my name to expert. Maybe I should, but then I will turn into one of the people that I've said you shouldn't listen to. Okay,
You're an expert at finding the experts.
There you go. Okay. Florida Surgeon General urges Americans to refuse to follow new mask mandates. So we're going to talk about that and this column. COVID deniers claim a new study says mask mandates don't work. They should try reading it, in which they call Dr. Ladapo Florida's crackpot surgeon general. So we're definitely going to talk about that. Don't forget, though, if you want to support my work, AllisonWinePromo.com, 50% off your best hurricane hunker down wines. These are all from high regions of Argentina, extremist altitude regions of Argentina where they probably don't have hurricanes, but that doesn't mean the grapes aren't working very hard to survive for your palate. One of these wines comes from almost 9,000 feet. 50% off the wine itself, 50% off shipping. It's a great way to support my work. Honestly, if you're already a wine drinker, get wine with a cause. If you're going to be sitting in your house for the next couple of days, there's nothing better to drink than AllisonWinePromo.com, or send it to somebody who is going to be sitting in their house. They're probably not going to get it in time, but anyway, maybe you could send it to them after so they thinking I'm going to grow all these great mangoes. It's probably going to just fly through our sliding glass door and I'm not going to have mangoes. Fine. She's going to need a glass of wine to deal with it in the future. So go get some AllisonWinePromo.com. You can also get some TwinEngineCoffee.com/Allison. These are USDA certified organic rose. We've got light rose, we've got dark rose, and we've also got Caturra tea, which is tea that is the coffee fruit, the fruit around the coffee bean. They're all USDA certified organic, high altitude, extremist altitude as well. And then there are some affiliate links too in the description. For instance, greenpasture.org is a great place to get health supplements. Basically, these are all like food-based supplements that, like, for instance, I take the fermented cod liver oil and concentrated butter oil blend every day. It's a high vitamin D supplement, and it's food-based, fermented. I have not had cavities in years. So it's a great way to keep your vitamin D levels up as well. Affiliate link again. And then also hydroponic grow system if you're interested in that. All in the links. Kristen, we do have questions for you over at Locals, AllisonMar.locals.com, or you can be on my editorial board. Another great way to support my work. And I'll throw you one question before we cut the YouTube stream. I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom. Here. Can you give us a website that contains the best documented research on the ineffectiveness of masks? I would like to read it and print it out to take to my job. COVID is making its way around again, and people are required to wear the masks based on the CDC recommendations when they return to work. So maybe that we'll leave that up on YouTube for people. Where do you suggest folks go, or make sure that they stay tuned to just get the best information? Where are you reading your research, Kristen?
Well, my research comes from 21 years of different documents, studies, laws, standards, real world observations. But I'd say if you go to standupmichigan.com, standupmichigan.com, there is a tab there for COVID resources. You'll see kind of a picture of a blonde woman with a blue background. Right at the bottom is hyperlinked. There is a CDC letter that myself, a group of 8 industrial hygienists, it's a letter that links all the studies that you're going to want to cite. And it is a 27-page letter, but it's an easy read. And it has a lot of graphics, which is what makes the document so long. Then there's also a white paper that my colleague Tammy Clark and I submitted at the very beginning of this that helped a lot of state legislative bodies and their mandates. So if you go to standupmichigan.com, again, and you go to the COVID resources tab, furthermore, if you go on Rumble and you look at the Choose Freedom channel, scroll back because it's a year ago, look for all those light blue backgrounds. We had an America's Frontline Industrial Hygienist and Multidisciplinary Support Summit where we did presentations. I'm working on getting all those presentations linked to my Twitter or X account because this is a common request. And I don't mean to seem like pushing you to the side, but I really think if you go to standupmichigan.com, you'll find what you need. But I am working on an infographic that a one-page infographic you can start handing out that kind of resonates with the average layperson with links to where people can get further information. But graphics are key. So I am working on that, but go to that website.
Okay, awesome. All right, I'm going to throw this at Kristen now. Florida Surgeon General urges Americans to refuse to follow new mask mandates and ask her all about how the LA Times calls him a crackpot Surgeon General. Just going to go back here just to make sure everyone knows I'm not making this up. Florida's crackpot Surgeon General refused to wear a mask at all at a meeting with a state legislator, even after she told him she was a breast cancer patient with an elevated susceptibility to infection. Ladapo, a physician, was ejected from her office. Kristen, take it away. We're killing the YouTube stream. See y'all on Rumble, Rock.